The wind came first, dragging a skin of dust across the yard, rattling the half-hinged shutters of the farmhouse. A black hat pinned itself against the porch rail, brim snapping like a crow's wing in the gale. The man reached out, caught it steady, and pressed it back on his head. His boots held to the cracked boards, each nail squealing under his weight. The land around him stretched dry as bone, fence posts broken, wires sagging in the heat. Crows squatted on the rails, feathers dull, beaks open in silence, watching. He spat into the dust, and the spit vanished before it could stain. Then footsteps, heavy, deliberate, not the steps of any man. The ground trembled once, then again. He held the porch rail, steadying himself as a shadow dragged across the yard. Another followed, and another. They were women, if the word could stretch to fit them. 3 shapes, tall as the barn, shoulders wide as the doorway. Their hair swept down their backs in dark ropes, catching the sun like tar. They moved slow, deliberate, every footfall a shudder through the soil. The first, her voice like timber splitting, spoke without lifting her gaze from him. "You stepped onto our land." The second's eyes glowed pale as a river stone, cold and heavy. "You'll stay." The third, lips curling with a sound like the scrape of steel, leaned close enough that her shadow swallowed the porch hole. "And you'll answer to us." The man did not shift. The lantern on the rail flickered once, then burned straight. He reached for the match tin in his vest pocket, drew a stick, and struck it across the post. The flame hissed alive, orange against the storm-colored dusk. He set it to the lantern wick and closed the glass. Light filled his face, drawn and scarred, lined deep from years few care to count. His eyes did not leave theirs. "This land's mine now," he said, voice plain, without edge or tremor. The women did not answer at once. The first bent her head, the creak of her neck louder than wind in the barn rafters. The second's nostrils flared, breath heavy as cattle in the chute. The third's teeth showed, too white, too sharp. Silence stretched. The crows lifted, circling overhead, wings beating quick and frantic. The man stepped down from the porch, boots sinking into the brittle dirt. He crossed the yard, slow, steady, until he stood where their shadows braided together. The lantern swung at his side, flame steady as his stride. The first woman leaned low, her face carved with cracks that might have been wrinkles or scars of stone. "No man keeps this farm," she said. The second's hand curled against her thigh, broad enough to flatten fence rails. "They've tried." The third's voice dropped to a whisper that carried like a shout. "They've failed." The man raised his chin, just enough for the light to catch the edge of his jaw. He did not reach for a weapon. He did not speak again. He only stood, lantern in hand, his shadow swallowed by theirs. The wind died all at once. The dust settled. From the barn came a creak, a board shifting loose, nails whining as though the wood itself leaned in to listen. The women stepped back as one, their eyes fixed on him, their bodies towering against the burnished horizon. No more words passed. Only a silence deeper than the grave, heavy as the storm that waits before breaking. The man stood alone in that silence, lantern raised, boots planted firm in the dust of a farm no one wanted. And the land itself seemed to wait, holding its breath. The axe bit deep into the stump, sparks spitting where iron struck not. He pulled it free, breath steady, and split the log again. Wood clattered into the dust, sharp edges pale against the brown earth. A shadow rolled across the yard, then another, then a third. He did not pause. Another swing, another crack. The women circled him, their steps shaking the fence rails, their shapes black against the molten sky. The tallest, Eldra, leaned down, hair falling like a rope of tar across her shoulder. "You cut our wood." The broad one, Mara, planted her hand on the ground, fingers sinking into soil like claws through hide. "You burn our fire." The sharp-eyed Solène tilted her head, the sun catching her teeth. "You eat our land." The man set the axe against the stump, straightened, and wiped his palms against his trousers. His lantern hung from a post beside him, its light unyielding in the late-day haze. "My land," he said. The ground groaned under their laughter. Deep, heavy, rolling through the dust like thunder. That night they did not leave. Their voices circled the farmhouse, low and humming, rattling the shutters, shaking the rafters. The man sat at the table, lantern casting gold across worn wood, a rifle across his knees. His eyes never shut. At dawn, the well stood dry. By noon, half the fence posts lay snapped. By dusk, hoofprints lined the fields though no cattle remained. Still he stayed. He cut wood. He mended fence. He patched roof. Each swing of the axe, each drive of the hammer, carried a rhythm. He worked beneath their gaze, their footsteps circling, their whispers curling into the wind. The town spoke of it in hushed voices over whiskey and dust. Man's gone mad. 3 of 'em'll have him dead for winter. Farm's cursed. Always was. But he returned each Saturday, riding into town with his wagon half filled. Eggs, beans, a slab of salted beef. He bought nails, kerosene, flour. His words were few, his eyes sharp. And though the townsfolk stared, none dared ask. On the 3rd week, Eldra's hand brushed the barn roof, shingles snapping loose. "This place breaks," she said. Mara kicked a trough to splinters. "This place bleeds." Solène stooped, her eyes level with his, sharp as a hawk's talon. "This place will bury you." He set the lantern between them, flame unwavering. Not yet. Their silence fell heavy, thicker than night. The earth trembled as they drew back, leaving him alone beneath a sky streaked blood-red. The days dragged, each marked by their tests. Wells soured. Chickens vanished. Wind carried voices not his own through the rafters. Yet each dawn, smoke rose from his chimney. Each dusk, lantern light burned steady against the dark. One evening, as the sun slid low and the coyotes called, he stood by the corral, hammering rails. Solène's voice slipped through the air, silk over steel. "They'll find you dead, soldier, alone with the dust." His hammer stilled. He looked up slow, eyes steady, jaw set. "Dust don't scare me." The words hung between them, sharp as a drawn blade. The women stilled, the earth holding its breath. For the first time, their eyes wavered, not in fear, but in recognition. And though the night came black and starless, his lantern still burned, casting its glow over the farm no man wanted, where 3 shadows watched, waiting. Thunder cracked without rain. The barn doors shuddered, chains rattling against their hooks. He braced his shoulder to the beam, forcing it shut as the wind dragged straw and dust through the gaps. Lantern light flickered, fighting the dark that pressed in from every seam. The ground trembled. Heavy steps moved around the yard, 3 shadows sliding long against the walls. From a roof, shingles tore loose, whipping into the storm. A voice rolled low, shaking timber and bone. "You cannot hold this place." He dropped the bar across the doors, lifted his rifle from the peg, and checked the chamber by touch alone. Outside, the earth shook again, closer. Through a crack in the boards, he saw Mara's hand drag across the corral, posts snapping like dry twigs. The cattle bellowed wild, breaking free, hooves thundering into the night. Dust rose behind them, swallowed fast by the storm. He pulled a match, struck it, and lit the second lantern. Light carved the barn's dark ribs, catching the outlines of barrels stacked, rope coiled, tools lined sharp along the wall. His eyes passed over them once, steady, counting without sound. A shriek split the night, high and jagged. Solène, her eyes burning white against the storm clouds. She bent low, her gaze level with the loft window. "You prepare, soldier." But for what? The man did not answer. He shouldered the rifle, aimed through the slat, and fired. The shot cracked louder than the thunder. Wood splintered where the bullet struck, chips flying, the echo rolling off the canyon walls. Solène jerked back, laughter pouring through the dark, rolling and endless. The storm pressed harder. The sky split open with jagged fire, white veins tearing the clouds. For a breath, all 3 women were lit. Eldra towering above the barn, Mara crouched among broken rails, Solène's eyes fixed sharp as steel. The man's face caught the lightning, hard and still, his jaw set like stone. He did not blink. Then came the fire, a sudden roar as the wheat field lit bright, flames racing wild, fed by the wind. Heat poured across the yard, carrying sparks high as stars. The women's shadows stretched long, dancing red across the walls. He did not run. He moved steady, lantern in one hand, rifle in the other, stepping through the barn into the blaze of his own field. The fire's glow lit the sweat on his brow, the steel of his weapon, the narrow line of his mouth. Eldra bent low, her breath like bellows, voice deep as breaking stone. This land breaks beneath us. Let go. He set the lantern on the fence post, flame steady. His reply came plain, unshaken. Not tonight. He lifted the rifle again. Another shot cracked. This one rang against bone. Eldra staggered a step, the sound of it rolling like a boulder down a canyon. Her eyes burned hotter, but her grin cut wide. Mara rose behind her, fists clenched, arms thick as tree trunks. She struck the ground, and the earth split, cracks crawling out across the yard. Chickens shrieked, feathers torn into the wind. He shifted his stance, boots braced against the trembling soil. His shadow, thrown tall by firelight, stood against theirs, small but unbending. The storm raged on, lightning tearing the sky, fire eating the field, earth shaking under their weight. The women circled, voices echoing, laughter mingling with thunder. Yet still he stood, lantern light at his back, rifle in his hands, eyes set steady as the horizon. And in the roar of storm and flame, the land itself seemed to wait, holding its breath for the reckoning to come at dawn. The horizon bled red as the sun clawed its way up, dragging long shadows across the yard. The fire in the field smoldered, smoke rising in gray ribbons that choked the morning air. He stood at the gate, rifle slung in one hand, lantern in the other. The ground shook. 3 silhouettes swelled against the dawn, towering black against the crimson sky. Eldra's steps cracked the soil. Mara's fists swung heavy as hammers. Solen's eyes glowed sharp, fixed on him like the point of blade. They came together, shoulder to shoulder, filling the world before him. This ends, Eldra rumbled. This breaks, Mara growled. This buries, hissed Solen. He set the lantern on the post, flame burning steady in the dim. His hands moved sure, sliding cartridges into the rifle, the click of brass loud against the morning silence. He did not look away. The first charge came sudden, Mara thundering forward, her arm swinging down to crush him. He dove, boots dragging a line through the dirt, and rolled beneath her shadow. His rifle cracked once, twice. The first shot sparked against bone, the second struck deep into her shoulder. She roared, staggering back, hand pressed against the wound, blood dark as tar running through her fingers. Before breath could steady, Solen struck. She swept low, her hand crashing through the corral, rails flying splinters. He ducked into the wreckage, pulling the pin on a stick of dynamite and tossing it into her path. The blast split the air, fire and smoke swallowing her scream. When it cleared, her face glared through the haze, split but unbroken, eyes burning hotter. Eldra came last, voice rising like a hymn of stone. She bent low, her breath a storm, her shadow smothering the yard. No man holds this farm. He lifted the lantern high, flame flickering wild in the wind, and shouted back, voice hard as iron. Then call me no man. Lightning cracked above, splitting the sky. His name, long buried, long whispered in fear across saloons and battlefields, seemed to ride the thunder. He was not only farmer, not only soldier. He was a gunfighter whose past carved death into the frontier, a name the land had tried to forget. The rifle barked, steady, unyielding. One shot to Eldra's chest, another to Mara's knee, a third to Solen's heart. Each staggered, each cried out, their voices splitting the heavens, rolling across canyons like thunder made flesh. The ground tore open beneath them, cracks racing out, dust billowing high. The giants reeled, their shadows thrown long and ragged. Fire licked the ruins of the corral, smoke clawing skyward. It did not stop. Powder smoke curled from the rifle's mouth, sweat streaked through ash on his face. Each step forward was a defiance, each breath drawn sharp against the storm. So Lynn fell first, her sharp gaze breaking as her knees struck the earth, her body scattering to smoke and shadow, swallowed by the wind. Mara dropped next, her roar fading as her form dissolved into the dust she had claimed to rule. Eldra lingered, towering still, eyes burning fierce with fury and grief. Her voice broke like mountains crumbling. This land was ours. He stepped closer, rifle steady, lantern burning between them. This land stands mine. The final shot cracked, echoing through the valley. Eldra swayed once, twice, then broke apart into dust and shadow, carried off by the morning wind. Silence fell. The earth stilled. The sky cleared, painted gold by the rising sun. He lowered the rifle, breath slow, shoulders heavy. The lantern's flame steadied once more, bright against the ruin. Smoke curled from the blackened field. Ash drifted soft across the yard. The farm stood scarred but unbroken, and from the town beyond, whispers would spread. A tale told low at first, then louder, until every saloon and every campfire carried it. A farm no man wanted, 3 shadows that ruled it, and one figure who stood unbending, lantern raised against the dark, whose name rang again across the frontier like thunder rolling through the plains. The storyteller's voice would close soft, like boots on dust. And so the farm of 3 shadows became the farm of one man's courage. And that courage rides still, carried on the wind of these plains.